as humans, we are hardwired to categorize. Categorization helps us process, learn, remember, and integrate new information. Imagine if every day you had to relearn everything and what everything was. It would be overwhelming. We categorize almost everything. It could be the items in a junk drawer, your closet, the foods we eat, people and events, even our experiences. So it's not surprising that we have a natural tendency to categorize our organizational change efforts. In this video, I'll share with you 3 blind spots that categorizing your change initiative based on impact and size can create and what you can do to avoid those blind spots. Hello, I'm Dr. Dawn Marie Turner, President of Turner Change Management and creator of the Readiness Mindset. The sheer volume of information that we experience every day makes categorization necessary. Categorization enables us to sort, organize, and store information in a useful way. We make decisions based on how we have organized and grouped information, and it defines the way we interact with our environment. The way we categorize information is almost infinite. For example, we could categorize a tomato as a fruit or a vegetable. I'm not going to get involved in that debate. We could categorize that same tomato by color or as a food you like or dislike or any other infinite possibilities. It's similar with change. There are many ways to categorize a change initiative in your organization. For example, you may decide that a change is either good or bad. I've done a previous video on the risks of labeling your change as positive or negative, good or bad. I'll put that in the show notes below. You could also categorize a change as intentional or unintentional. For example, implementing that new payroll system as part of your strategic vision would be an intentional change. Having to set up your entire workforce to work from home in just 3 days because of a global pandemic would be an unintended or unanticipated change. Another common way to categorize change is based on our perception of its size, complexity, and the impact it will have on the organization and the people affected. Transformational changes tend to be those changes that are viewed as larger and more complex. They're intended to reshape your organization and often involve multiple departments, people at different levels of the organization. For example, creating and implementing a new performance management system or redefining your core business and service delivery model. These are the changes that typically get assigned and managed as a project. Small or incremental changes, such as those that are believed to only affect maybe a few people or one department, are sometimes called transactional changes. These types of changes often don't fit an organization's criteria for a project. For example, it could be introducing that new team leader to an established team, a routine update to some software, or a small tweak to some scheduling or performance things. Categorizing your change initiatives based on size, complexity, or the impact it will have on your organization has advantages. 2 key advantages are: 1, it helps you define the scope of the event. It gives you a picture of how big or small you believe that change to be. And because it helps you define the scope, you can then identify the resources, the time, and the level of support that is going to be needed to allow for your team and people to adopt those new activities and behaviors. However, categorizing and labeling your change initiative based on size and impact also creates 3 potential blind spots. These blind spots can undermine the launch of your change initiative, the very foundation of your change effort. They can also sabotage future change efforts and decrease your organization's capacity to handle future changes. One blind spot is the tendency to assess the size, the complexity, and the impact of the change initiative based on the leader or initiator's perception of that change event and its associated transition. I've worked with many leaders who launched what they thought was a small, almost insignificant change, only to be surprised when people responded as if it was a radical shift for the organization. The true impact, the size of any transition can only be determined by the people who are going to need to do the heavy lifting, who you are expecting to do the work to adopt those new activities and behaviors. As I share that blind spot, I'm reminded of an example that happened to me. I was moving a team from a 2nd floor workspace to a 4th floor workspace. Nothing else about their work or their environment was changing. We were going to be in the same building, doing the same work in the same way. We were simply moving from the 2nd floor to the 4th floor. What I hadn't appreciated was the interconnections that were on that 2nd floor with other areas that they worked with and the emotional attachment that people had to that working space. And as we announced and began to make that change a reality, my team quickly let me know that this was a far larger change than what I anticipated. And it was a reminder to me that even though small changes require a pause and a level of planning, conversation, and involvement that you may only sometimes reserve for those larger changes. And as a result, we took a step back, did some initial and larger levels of planning to make that transition as smooth as possible. Almost every organizational change appears smaller and easier the higher your view of the organization. Another blind spot is the failure to recognize that every change is interconnected. And then because we don't recognize the interconnections, you manage each change initiative as an isolated project. Every change will send ripples through other areas of your organization. That's why all changes, regardless of their size, need to be launched within the context of your current operation and the other changes within your organization. Your risk of a successful change in one area negatively impacting another area of the organization increases when changes are launched in isolation of the larger organization. In our work, we advocate and show leaders how to apply holistic systems thinking to assess and evaluate the interconnections and the risks of one change in one area to other areas of the organization. A third blind spot, the belief that small changes or changes that were needed because of an unexpected event don't need planning, or there's no time for the active involvement, planning, and leadership that you may give to those larger transformational change. Every change, regardless of its size and complexity, requires planning. A poorly launched transactional, small change can be as destructive to your organization as a poorly planned transformational change. Planning and applying the essential elements for healthy and sustainable change is one key to restabilizing quickly, especially when you've got an unexpected change event. You can avoid these blind spots. You can still categorize your changes and take advantage of what that allows you to do and avoid these blind spots when you stop doing change management and begin practicing change leadership. When you begin practicing change leadership instead of doing change management, you gain the value of infusing throughout your organizations the principles and practices that allow for healthy and sustainable change. You can use the success of small and unanticipated changes to support those larger transformational changes. And you build people's readiness and resilience for current and future changes. People become less afraid of change, and you're able to build your capability and use change for growth and performance. Categorizing a change initiative can be helpful, but it's important to recognize the potential blind spots so that those blind spots don't sabotage your change efforts before you even get started. That's it for now. I hope you found this video helpful. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.